Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany. Welcome back, or welcome if you've never been here before, and welcome to my sort of recap, if you will, of my entire summer. So, it's been a minute since I have come to you with my favorites. I realized as I was preparing to kind of fill you in on everything that I read in the month of August for the Romance Readathon that I have yet to even share my favorites for the last 3 months. I haven't told you anything since May, which was the Escape the Readathon. That was my first month-long readathon, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Everything counted. I had 5 stars across genres. Really enjoyed that, but we haven't really discussed anything since then, and it's time for me to recap that. I really owe this to Jess from Peace Love Books. She does seasonal 5-star recaps, and I really enjoy that, so I thought it might be time for me to kind of adopt that over here before we get into all the autumnal content. So I want to give you my 5 stars across the summer, tell you what I've been up to, share any additions to the library when it comes to book mail. I also have a mini haul here. I did go book shopping during the Romance Readathon, and this is just a chance for me to catch up with you because it's been a minute. Okay, so let's get into it, because the month of June, of course, was Pride Month, and it was also the month where I went to Book Bonanza. I started it out with my new obsession with Tal Bauer. So the rest of the story was absolutely 5 stars. This is an slow burn sports romance where we're following Morgan. He's a veteran in the NHL. He gets traded to the Outlaws, which is a team that is mostly made up of rookies. And when he arrives, he learns that they have been enduring physical and mental abuse at the hands of their coach. And it starts his journey to aid in the rehabilitation of this entire team, which is also the beginning of his romance with Shay, who is questioning. This is a very timid and sweet and seeking romance, which is my catnip, because Morgan is really trying to hold space for all that Shay has endured. This is a heartfelt underdog story that really centers around the team just as much as their romance, and I absolutely loved it. It's heavy on the trauma, and I just love the way that Tal Bauer handles these themes. It was a gut punch, just so you know, but it was absolutely 5 stars. Similarly, was You and Me by Tal Bauer. This is now an all-time favorite single dad romance. This is featuring 2 single dads. This is also a slow burn, yet friends to lovers romance between Luke, who really felt fresh for me in terms of what I've been picking up of late, since he does not have a great connection with his son. He feels like he's failing as a father. He's also a widow. So this handles the theme of grief in such a beautiful way, and as an attempt to get closer to his son, who just so happens to be a star player on his football team. And we are in Texas, okay? The stakes are high. He decides to join the Boosters as a means to get closer to him. And through that, he meets Landon, who feels like his complete opposite. Landon is super dad. He is the charismatic, organized, and involved usher in his foray into how to navigate the Boosters. And through Landon's patience and acceptance of who Luke is, they slowly start to fall. And I just felt like, their romance was not only beautiful, but also how the themes of homophobic trauma, the way that grief is handled, as well as how they hold consideration for their children and how those relationships change. Also, just how messy familial dynamics can be. This was incredibly beautiful. Okay, and I could not help but continuously say throughout that this is romance. I highly suggest that you pick it up. I picked this up because of Robin from Paperbacks and Planners. She told me this is a favorite of hers from him, and I'm so happy that I did. All-time favorite single dad romance. All-time favorite. Next, another gut punch, because that seemed to be the theme of the beginning of June for me, was What We Broke by Marley Valentine. Oh my gosh, I absolutely loved the depiction of a very non-conventional family unit in this book. This is a marriage in trouble. It's an MM. It is about their journey back to each other after immense loss. There is a trigger warning for the loss of a child, for active alcoholism, suicidal ideation. There are heavy themes of trauma where they're just trying to work their way back to each other. I also love how it encompassed the grief of their surrogate, who is their family, their best friend. I cannot wait to read her sapphic romance. She just leapt off the page for me, and I just was rooting for them to win in this book. There's so much emotional labor and work done. This is a hard one, HEA, that I absolutely adored. I have yet to listen to the audiobook, but I cannot wait. I will be rereading this. This was standout. I absolutely love Marley Valentine. I think that she handles like loss and grief in such a beautiful way. So I adored this. This is a favorite within her backlist for me, for sure. Now, wrapping up the tearjerkers, I was aiming to get through a lot of series before Book Bonanza, which included the Bell Brothers. Okay, so I have Saint by Sierra Simone, which I just feel like her writing is incredibly atmospheric, and so I found that interesting because this book taught me that monks make beer. Who knew? Okay, this is a road trip romance. It's also a second chance. It's an MM and forbidden because Aiden is a monk and Elijah is the ex who he left to save himself. This has heavy themes of depression, which I did not want to relate to. And I think in large part just the beautiful prose in this book that summed up very succinctly certain emotions that I have definitely felt really is what rocked me with this book. It is very different from the first two. The pacing is languid. I mean, we're really talking about conversations of depression and religion, and we are following them as they're reunited after Aiden has left Elijah. Now Elijah is a writer, he's on assignment, and they're both going on this road trip from parish to parish, and they're confronted with the tumultuous chemistry between them and what went wrong and how they may or may not be able to go forward if this is their last fleeting moment. And so the pacing does seem to like swift and sway back and forth and push and pull, and really does mimic kind of the journey to healing. So it's very different and it's incredibly atmospheric, and this was just beautiful, but it is heavy. Okay, proceed with caution when it comes to this book, but it was definitely 5 stars for me. And I mean, I continued my month on. In terms of additions to the library, I got book mail from Cynthia from Kindle After Dark. She sent me Ablaze. This is an MMS, okay? And this is an A.H Cunningham. I'm so happy that I read this. I absolutely enjoyed it. It was like laugh out loud funny. It is between two friends with benefits, but they just feel like partners in life. But they've never really gone there in the romantic department, and they both meet Daniel. And that is all I will say, but this does feature a character that I have seen continue to pop up in A.H Cunningham's books, and the linchpin throughout them is this BDSM club that is mainly for Black professionals, and I absolutely loved that. I adored this. Thank you so much, Cynthia. You spoil me. You spoil me all of the time, and I do not know what I've done to deserve your kindness. I can't. I love it so much. At the start of July, I was gearing up to go to Disney World for my best friend's bachelorette, which was absolutely like the time of my life. It was just so amazing to be able to share her accomplishments and her love story. Truly, they were meant to be, and I had such a good time on that trip, which was the same time of Summerween, and on my way back was the start of the fanfic readathon, which is how I became introduced with In Silence and Submission by Gillian Evans. Absolutely stand out. If you are a fan of contradictions, you will definitely love this. This is another Draco and Hermione pairing within the Harry Potter universe, and it is a BDSM as healing story, which I absolutely loved, they are friends to lovers. The friendships in this book, the found family feel, the comedic intrusive nature of it all was just standout. And I love how there's already a trust between Draco and Hermione in this book. This also has heavy wartime trauma attached to it when it comes to Hermione's pain points, which Draco keys into and realizes that not only have they been secretly pining for each other and would he want to explore with her, he feels like he can because he starts to realize that she might benefit from his kink of dominance. And I just love the relationship that they explore in this book, the vulnerabilities that they share, how Draco also gets tended to, and the third act really subverted something that I do not like in books, where an inevitable assumption and miscommunication happens in order to create that third act conflict. And in here, it was so beautifully done. And I absolutely loved this. I highly suggest that you pick it up. I am a big fan of Contradictions. That was a favorite of the year last year. And this will now be its companion to that. It was absolutely beautiful. I also rated Taken to Nobu by Elizabeth Stevens 5 stars. I am buddy reading this series with Avery from Ava's Romance Books, and this to date is still my favorite within the series. We've since continued on. This is following Kiki. I do suggest that you read this series in order, because in the first book you're going to become privy to the moon that Kiki is from and the nature of what she's endured in terms of a sexual assault survivor. This moon is inhabited by humans, and neighboring alien alphas have discovered that, and they were using this moon to hunt and breed them. And so with that, Kiki has acquired the skill sets of a warrior to protect herself. And in the first book, she is rescued and she is being healed. And in the second book, she awakes on the hero's planet with a language barrier, and she's been thrust into what is supposed to be an honor, because upon first glance he knows her to be his mate. She's thrust into their mating ritual where they hunt down their females, and Kiki is not having it, okay? Kiki takes this opportunity to plot her escape. She tries to corral all of the alien women who really aren't down for her way of doing things, and this is the start of their beautiful romance, where I love how Elizabeth Stevens finds these clever ways to tackle topics like consent, virginity, and she puts them in these circumstances that just lend themselves so well to the heroes being caring. And oh my gosh, the way that he holds space and is patient with her and aims to woo her and incorporates like human traditions and tries to commingle them with his own, and just his patience and his understanding in this book is just so beautiful, okay? This book was standout. She is a strong, fierce heroine that is given the space to heal and be vulnerable and be reshaped in more than one way, which I absolutely loved. When you get to that scene, feel free to DM me, but I loved this. This is 5 stars, and again, it still remains to be my favorite within the series so far. Also, in the month of July, it was the end of the Summer of Tessa Dare, which was a read-along put on by Rachel from Rachel Reads and Sings. I did that along with Avery, Samantha from Books with Samantha, and B from Mama Needs to Read Romance. I had an incredible time, and so I'm going to go over all of the 5 stars from the readathon, starting with A Week to Be Wicked. This is Colin and Minerva's story. It's the second in the Spindle Cove series, which I absolutely adored. This is a Rake and Blue Stocking pairing where she sort of gets him to agree to a road trip where she can present her research as a geologist. Okay, I love to see it. I loved the teach me between them and the road trip shenanigans, the way that they sacrificed for one another. This is honestly just a delight to read. It was laugh out loud funny, it was swoony, it was heartwarming, it was everything, and it had a lot of the markers that I started to see within her books, because the next favorite that I have from her was absolutely Any Duchess Will Do. This was a standout, heartfelt romance for me, and very comedic in terms of their meet cute, which I think Tessa Dare does so well. The beginning of this book, this is featuring the most meddling mama I have yet to read, where Griff, our Duke has yet to be married, is drugged and kidnapped by his mother, taken to Spindle Cove, and told that he needs to just pick a lady, pick any one of them, and she will make her into his Duchess. And he takes the opportunity to sort of needle her back, and instead of picking a lady, he picks a servant and barmaid, which I absolutely loved, because this is something that I wasn't expecting. Up until this point in Spindle Cove, all of the heroines have been ladies, and they have been outcasted in their own particular way, which is what I really loved about Spindle Cove. It felt like everything that society should have been for young ladies in terms of building them up, and this place is really a respite for them. But I because they were the focal point, had never thought of a character like Pauline even being featured, and I just thought this was just incredibly smart. Pauline is a survivor. She's quick-witted. She's a spitfire. She can dish it back to him. She takes on this opportunity to not only mess with Griff and his mother in return, but also to forge her own future because he's paying very nicely. I also loved the relationship between her and her sister, how Griff really takes that on. Their romance is so beautiful. His backstory and his trauma that he's harboring. I just felt like this was just an unexpected pairing of class difference, and the way that she explores that through their romance and her time in London and the relationship that she forges with Griff's mother as well. This was beautiful. It stand out. I loved it so much. I also rated The Duchess deal by Tessa Dare 5 stars. I felt like this featured, again, another marker within her writing that I absolutely love, which was a comedic meet cute. And this opens with Emma showing up to Duke Ash's house in this horrendous wedding dress. Okay, she's a seamstress and she spent months preparing and stitching and customizing this wedding dress for his fiance that jilted him at the altar. And so she wants payment for said dress. And they enter into this marriage of convenience, this arrangement. And I just absolutely adored their romance because he's not only a scarred hero, wounded from the war, believes himself to be a monster. He is incredibly grumpy and stern. I just love how she sweeps into his life, soothes all of that. And like in him trying to fulfill his duty, he's caring for her, slowly falling for her reluctantly. Some of the acts of care that he does for her were absolutely hilarious, but also just so romantic. I absolutely adored Emma and Ash. My last 5-star for the summer of Tessa Dare was the Wallflower Wager, which completely took me by surprise. This featured her use of animals, which was throughout all of her books. There was always some comedic, outrageous, bonkers situation that had to do with an animal that forced our main characters to come together. It also had the comedic meet cute and that like quick jab, okay, of heartfelt trauma. And that was immensely felt in this book. There is a trigger warning for child molestation in this book, which I was not expecting. And, you know, Penny, our heroine, is a lady. She has a menagerie of animals. I mean, she's got cats, she's got dogs, she's got otters, she's got parrots. She has a menagerie of animals. And she's seen as a little strange, which she's not at all upset about. She's seen as a naive. She's marching to the own beat of her drum. I saw her as a Regency hippie. I truly did. I was here for freaking Penny. And our hero, Gabriel, is sort of a working class self-made man. He's in real estate, okay? He's flipping these houses and he knows that people would love to buy a home that's right next to a lady, yet he's not anticipating the oddity of Penny, which she's being forced to mask and marry. And so they both enter into this agreement that would be mutually beneficial, and it is how their romance begins. I absolutely adored this book. I loved how he's willing to go to bat for her in this book. He almost gave me like mafia feels, you know, like a man of the slums who knows he isn't good enough, who tries to push her away, but he just keeps coming back. And I just loved how vulnerable and upfront and how she had this lust for freaking life because of how her freedoms were sort of taken from her. So I'm sorry, I talked too long. July was a great month, okay? I also received book mail from Willow. Willow, thank you for sending me Breaking Perfect by Lydia Micheals. This is an MMF and I absolutely adore this. This was the first instance where I really realized that what I really want is an MMF. When I'm reading reverse harem, I want everybody to be together. There is a trigger warning for cheating in this book. There is cheating in this book. At the end, we do really have, this has one of my favorite quotes. I think that sums up my love of poly romance, so I'm just gonna really quick, and I just to thank you again, Willow, because I absolutely adore this book. It was pivotal for me because this is truly the sentiment that I want from every poly romance. I want to feel like each part of the whole is inextricably linked, that they could not survive without the other. 3 separate people, neither one perfect, each a little broken, melded so tightly together they had eventually become one. This book helped me discover that. Thank you so much, Willow. And I really don't even like touching this book because it is a beautiful labor of love from Mel Binds Fangs. Thank you so much, Mel. She sent me the Fallout. This is stunning. I quite frankly freaked out when she first sent it to me. This is ridiculous. It glows in the dark. I cannot. It is absolutely stunning. And they really are just like irreplaceable labors of love. Even if I were to have Mel herself rebind this, it would not be the same because her artistry is constantly evolving, her typesets, the choices that she's making. Thank you so much, Mel. I absolutely adore this. This is one of the most stunning books that I own. Thank you so much for just out of the kindness of your heart sending this to me. I absolutely adore it. So I got this in July, and moving on to August, which was the Romance Readathon. I could not believe that Maggie even asked me to host. I was so thrilled and so honored. And the beginning of the readathon, I absolutely adored because it felt like it was aligning with my personal life. Okay, like the society papers, the challenges that we won. The first event that we were all invited to on the Discord was a social exhibition. And the first book that I read was An Island Princess Starts a Scandal, where Manuela is coming to Paris to exhibit her own art. And it's her romance with the Duchess Cora, who is a titan in business. Their paths first cross at a sapphic body club, and it's centered around a piece of art that has a really great exploration of the male gaze. I absolutely adored this romance. I did end up rating it 4 stars, but because I opened with this, that we had the society exhibition, we were told to go to the modiste after winning the first challenge, which is something that I had to do as a maid of honor for my best friend's wedding. I just felt like everything was aligning perfectly so, and I absolutely adored it. The masquerade, okay, that we were invited to happened to be on my best friend's actual wedding. The amount of preparation, detail, and creativity. Maggie was truly writing romance novels throughout the entire month. I loved the society papers. It was such a fun readathon. Oh, I adored it. It was truly an extravaganza. And the one 5-star that I had from last month was one that I started on the way to my best friend's wedding, and that was The 7-Year Slip. I talked about this on that trip because I absolutely had to. This was such a beautiful handling of grief as well as magical realism, where we're meeting Clementine after losing her aunt, who was everything to her in her life. And she is moving into her late aunt's apartment, where she meets a man named Ewan, who is subletting it for the summer. Yet, somehow, some way, this meeting dredges up the series of clues that her aunt left to her that there's something magical about this apartment. Somehow, she is meeting Ewan 7 years into the past. There is a time slip. This meet-cute is faded, and I also just loved the romance between them because I really bought their connection. It wasn't simply based on attraction. They cover so much emotional ground in the time that they spend with each other. I loved how Ewan is a passionate chef. The way that he sees food and the way that he sees life and the way that he challenges her and he kind of coaxes her out of the lull that is her depression and grief and loss. And it's just so beautiful between them, and the quagmires of this time slip I found to be incredibly interesting, and how her meeting him also sort of reignites or at least introduces us to her passion in terms of her being in publishing. And so I just loved the circumstance and the situation that thrusts them together within the present storyline and how that affected the past, how it all worked. I had such a great time. This was truly like a magical right person, wrong time. And it was beautiful. I could not put it down. I loved it from beginning to end. And I also really enjoyed the author's note and how she shares about being within the writing process and struggling with her own grief. This is incredibly beautiful. So I absolutely adored it. This was the 5-star of my entire month. I had many that came very close. One of which led me to go book shopping back to Dragon Castle Books, which is a bookstore that Christy from Christy Reads a Lot found when she came into town for the Love in Las Vegas book signing last year. I had to go back because I read Lady Derry Takes a Lover. I absolutely loved this. I rated it 4 stars, but speaking of the autumnal vibes that is going to be dominating this channel, this is incredibly cozy, and it is about an inn that is started by Lady Derry, who is a widow. She was left with nothing. Her husband, who really wasn't it, okay. The beginning of this book, when she's at the solicitor trying to see if she's been left with anything at all, she meets his mistress. And instead of it being contentious between them, they both spark this friendship, which I felt like at the core of this book was really like stand out for me, the female friendship in this, how they both team up out of need and circumstance, become entrepreneurs together in this Regency setting at this once brothel, which is just them salvaging the scraps that they've been left. It is incredibly cozy. It was so fun to be able to read about the inn that is at the focal point of books that I've read within the series. I absolutely adored the romance in this, how our hero is led to this inn, what he's investigating in terms of her late husband. This was just incredibly cozy, and it was funny and a swoony slow burn, and I absolutely adored it. So because of this book, I went book shopping, and I hadn't been to this bookstore since I went with Carrie from Books for Romance and Christy from Christy Reads a Lot. They had so much there, and I was able to add to the series. I found some Julianne Long, I found some stepbacks that I really wanted, and I found a manga. I also was able to ask the owner if she was actually getting the donations that I hope she was receiving from Libro FM, which I am a new member to. What I loved, not only is it a counter to Audible, Libro FM is an audiobook service where with your membership you can sponsor a local bookstore. And Dragon Castle Books was my pick. The owner happened to be in there, so when I asked her, "Are you getting these donations, girl?" I was pleasantly happy to learn that she was, so that she was grateful to be receiving them, and she said every bit counts. So I was thrilled to hear it, and I'm just gonna go over like really quickly what I got from there in terms of the additions to the library that I had. I was able to get book 4, which I have read. This is featuring an opera singer and a very prickly hero. Also cozy vibes. I definitely recommend this for the holidays. I believe this is book 5, but don't quote me. I was able to get another within this series. I got Midnight Rider by Kat Martin for the step back. I love a step back that depicts water. I just love how it drips on the skin. I had to get this. I had to have it. Stunning. I also had to get the first in Elizabeth Hoyt's Maiden Lane series. I have bought this book so many times before. I cannot find the one with the step back, so I got it. I saw it, I bought it. I want to complete that series. I don't have all of them just yet. I absolutely love this. I think this is also a good entry point into historical romance. I think that there's a book for everyone. I love the overarching theme of social justice. There is a Ghost of St. Giles. I think they're all sexy. I think they're all fun. There's a lot of good representation in all of them, and it's just a fun overarching story. I got Crooked Hearts because of this step back. I just had to get this. I felt like this was incredibly fun. I mean, it is sensual, and she has a pistol. I want to know more. Like, she just felt like a riot. I had to own this just by the step back alone. I want to know more about this story, so I had to get that. And then also, anytime I see Cressley Cole in a bookstore, I buy it. So I still haven't read The Professional. I still have not read this series. But anything she writes, I will buy. So I got this. And then lastly, I was so happy. I immediately went into the manga section, and they only had volume 6. But Sweat and Soap, I've read volume 1 and 2 because of Rachel from Rachel Reads and Sings, and I had to grab this. I need to continue on. because these are cozy, these are sweet. It is centered around a workplace romance, which is a little odd and strange, but I love their relationship. It is so fun. He is obsessed with her smell, and that is like her one pain point because she profusely sweats. They work at a soap company. He's in the creative department, she's in accounting, and he becomes obsessed with the smell of her and uses it to make future products. And I absolutely love how he's completely gone for her. So I have to continue. I'm glad I have volume 6, because I mean, manga, okay, is a trap. You get obsessed and then you start dropping money. So I was so happy to at least get volume 6 because I absolutely adore them and my obsession has been unlocked. Okay, I am better for it. I am better for it. My wallet may not think so, but I am better for it. And in terms of book mail, I was not even expecting this. Like, this community never ceases to amaze me when it comes to like the kindness and the thoughtfulness and the fact that we can just relate on the gush. I was not expecting these at all, or to even hit 2K. So thank you if you are subscribed. I know my uploads have been sparse of late, so I wasn't really even expecting this at all. But for my 2K, I got Barbarian's Mate from Tori. I love Tori from Novel Life. Oh, I adore her. Thank you so much, Tori, for sending me this. And I have Ruby Dixon book plates to add to this. This is the 5th book in this series, I believe. It's after Barbarian's Prize with Tiffany. I had to read that before meeting Ruby Dixon, and so I cannot wait to continue. I also received, which was another favorite within Tal Bauer's backlist, which is Gravity, Hockey Romance, MM, Slow Burn as well. I received this from Zay from Witty Reads, who has a booktube channel now. So please go over there, say hello, subscribe if you haven't, check her out. I absolutely adore Zay. I was able to finally meet her in person in June, and she is just everything. She is so sweet. I have a recommendation from her from Candy Steiner, Revelry. This is like one of the books in her backlist that I have to read because of Zay, so I cannot wait to get into that. Thank you so much for sending me this, Zay. And I also received, oh my God, from my bestie who I absolutely adore. I'm so glad that this community brought us together. I don't even know how I was doing it without you. Which is Caitlin from the Love Librarian. I adore Caitlin. She sent me the entire Grip trilogy. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Oh my God. And my love of a bind up comes from Caitlin. Okay, my love of a bind up comes from her. Thank you so much for this. I was like freaking out when I was opening it. I actually opened this before I went book shopping and I was completely taken out. And then Samantha from Books with Samantha, while she was at Steamy LitCon, I don't know why she was thinking about me, which is just incredibly kind. Like I said, it just moves and rocks me. She got me a signed copy of The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. I absolutely love it, and she got it signed. Oh my God. I love this, and I was freaking out about the recovering of this series because I just didn't know how it was gonna go. I love her original artwork. Having this signed means everything. Thank you so much, Samantha. And I was freaking shooketh because I knew this was coming. She DM'd me that she was sending it, which I was just like, why? But thank you. I also saw within the package, which I was not expecting, which is the After Party, which, can we get into this cover? I absolutely love it. I'm not sure if this is going to be like a murder mystery, but it's definitely a story of friendship where all of them wished their boss to be dead, and now that their boss is, they are tasked with figuring out what to do. I'm not sure if they are the source of the boss dying, but I cannot wait to read this Black female friendships on the page in this way. The cover is stunning. Thank you so much. I can't wait to get into it. Oh, it was an incredible month last month. Just being able to connect with new people. I cannot thank Maggie enough for asking me to host. I had a really good time on reading sprints with you all, so I cannot thank you enough for joining me today. I hope to see you in the next one. There will be a lot of autumnal content on this channel going forward, and I hope to see you there. Bye.